This is a story about love, after everything. Tell me where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. She signed, clear and confident. Hello, I'm Olivia. I like your sneakers. Lily's eyes widened. She blinked once, then twice, and then something rare happened. She laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was bright, a sound that startled the couple at the neighboring table and made Ethan freeze mid-breath. The richest man in the room wasn't the one who owned the building that night. It was the one who finally learned how to listen. Ethan Whitmore was used to being recognized before he spoke. At 6'2" in a tailored charcoal suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, with a steel watch catching the warm light of the restaurant's chandeliers, he carried the quiet authority of a man who could buy the block if he felt inconvenienced. And yet as he stepped into the Alder room on Madison Avenue with his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, he felt something he rarely experienced in boardrooms or interviews: uncertainty. Lily walked beside him in soft white sneakers, her small hand wrapped loosely around his fingers, her brown hair tucked behind her ears, eyes observant, expressive, silent. She had been born profoundly deaf, and while Ethan had ensured she had the best specialists, the most advanced devices, the finest private tutors within a 100-mile radius, he had never quite made the time to master her language. He knew a few signs, enough to manage schedules and reminders, but not enough to share jokes. Not enough to catch the flicker of humor that danced across her face when she watched cartoons or read the closed captions of late-night shows he pretended not to enjoy. They were seated near the window, where the city lights shimmered against the glass, and Ethan adjusted his cufflinks as if precision could solve what patience had not. Across the room, Olivia Bennett moved between tables with practiced calm, her blonde hair tied back in a simple low ponytail, her posture straight but unassuming, carrying a tray balanced with the ease of someone who understood weight and timing. She noticed Lily immediately, not because of her father's presence, which most staff had already whispered about, but because Lily's hands moved constantly, shaping invisible thoughts in the air. Olivia approached their table with a steady smile that didn't bend into awe. "Good evening," she said gently, setting down 2 glasses of water. Lily washed her lips, then glanced at her father for translation. Ethan signed a brief greeting, slightly stiff, slightly delayed. Olivia's eyes flickered, not with judgment, but with recognition. When she crouched down to Lily's eye level, the world around them seemed to pause. Her hands rose naturally, fingers fluid, wrists relaxed. She signed, clear and confident. "Hello, I'm Olivia. I like your sneakers." Lily's eyes widened. She blinked once, then twice, and then something rare happened. She laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was bright, a sound that startled the couple at the neighboring table and made Ethan freeze mid-breath. Lily signed back quickly, her small hands moving with speed that felt like music. Olivia's lips curved as she followed, nodding in understanding. Ethan watched the exchange like a man overhearing a language he had once promised himself he would learn. "What did she say?" he asked, trying to keep his tone neutral. Olivia hesitated, just a fraction, then signed back to Lily before answering him aloud. "She said you look more serious in real life than on television," she replied carefully. For a second, silence hovered. Ethan's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in surprise. He wasn't accustomed to being the subject of jokes he didn't initiate. Lily looked up at him, grinning, her shoulders shaking with another silent laugh. Olivia signed something else, slower this time, and Lily turned back to her father. Her expression shifted. She signed one word with deliberate clarity. "Learn." Ethan stared at his daughter's hands as if they were delivering a verdict. Around them, the restaurant noise resumed, the clink of silverware, the low hum of conversation, the soft jazz drifting from ceiling speakers. But at their table, the air felt different. "I know some," Ethan said defensively, forming a sign that came out slightly wrong. Lily corrected him instinctively, tapping his wrist. Olivia noticed the awkward angle of his fingers and gently demonstrated the proper motion without touching him. "It's about rhythm," she said quietly, "not speed." Ethan looked at her more closely now. She didn't speak with the flustered tone he expected from staff addressing someone whose name appeared in business magazines. She spoke evenly, as if she were discussing something simple and universal. "How long have you been signing?" he asked. "Since I was 6. Olivia replied. "My younger brother is deaf." There was no drama in her, voice. No plea for admiration. Just fact. Lily watched the exchange, then tugged at Olivia's sleeve lightly, and signed something that made Olivia press her lips together to hide a smile. What now? Ethan asked, almost wary. She wants to know if you're always this serious. Olivia translated. A beat passed. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan exhaled through his nose in something that almost resembled a laugh. He glanced at his reflection in the darkened window. The image looking back at him was polished, controlled, distant. Lily reached for his hand again and signed slowly, mimicking Olivia's earlier clarity. Learn with me. The words landed heavier than any contract he had signed that week. Olivia stood then, smoothing her apron. I'll give you both a few minutes, she said softly, before adding. If you'd like, I can show you the sign for something simple, like I love you. Ethan met her gaze, and for the first time that evening, he didn't feel like the most powerful person in the room. He felt like a father being offered a bridge. Lily waited, eyes hopeful. Ethan lifted his hand awkwardly. Olivia demonstrated. Thumb, index finger, pinky extended. Simple, steady. Ethan mirrored her. Imperfect, but earnest. Lily's face lit up. She signed it back immediately, twice. The city lights shimmered beyond the glass, and somewhere between the glow of chandeliers and the quiet movement of hands, something shifted. Ethan Whitmore had built companies from nothing, negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions, and commanded rooms filled with executives twice his age. But that night, guided by a waitress with calm eyes and steady hands, he began learning the language that had been waiting for him all along. Ethan did not lower his hand right away after forming the sign for I love you. His fingers remained slightly stiff, as if they were holding more than a gesture. Lily mirrored him again, slower this time, watching his movements with careful attention, correcting the angle of his thumb with gentle determination. Olivia observed without stepping in, allowing the silence between father and daughter to stretch into something meaningful rather than uncomfortable. The waiter at the next table cleared his throat quietly, a subtle reminder that the restaurant continued around them, but at that table time seemed to move differently. Ethan cleared his own throat and attempted another sign he remembered from a flashcard app he had downloaded months ago and abandoned after 3 days. He signed how was school but reversed the order awkwardly. Lily tilted her head, then burst into silent laughter again, covering her mouth with both hands. Olivia pressed her lips together to keep from laughing out loud. Ethan raised one eyebrow. Let me guess, he said, glancing at Olivia. I just asked her if the school was a sandwich. Olivia smiled openly now. You asked her if the sandwich was a school. She replied gently. Ethan shook his head once, a short exhale escaping him. For a man who negotiated billion-dollar mergers without blinking, misplacing one handshake felt absurdly humbling. Lily leaned forward and corrected impatiently, her fingers guiding his into the right position. Ethan let her. He did not pull away. He did not check his watch. He did not glance at his phone vibrating faintly in his jacket pocket. He watched his daughter's hands and followed. Olivia straightened, then stepped back half a pace to give them space, but Lily tugged at her sleeve again and signed quickly. Olivia's eyes softened. She wants to know if I can sit with you for a minute. Olivia translated. Ethan hesitated instinctively. He was not accustomed to sharing moments like this with strangers, yet something in Lily's expression made the answer simple. If you are not too busy, he said. Olivia glanced toward the bar where another server was refilling glasses and gave a small nod. She pulled a chair slightly closer but did not fully sit, keeping her posture professional yet present. Lily signed something else, more animated. Olivia responded with fluid speed, and Lily's laughter returned, brighter this time. What did she say now? Ethan asked, almost eager. Olivia looked amused. She said you sign like you were giving a business presentation, she said. Ethan let out a genuine laugh, low and surprised. That is not inaccurate, he admitted. Lily pointed at him, grinning. Ethan leaned back slightly and studied Olivia more closely. Her hands moved with precision but never rigidity. Every sign seemed shaped by intention rather than memorization. You make it look easy, he said. Olivia shook her head lightly. It is not about easy, she replied. It is about showing up every day. The words settled between them. Ethan knew about showing up for shareholders, for investors, for quarterly earnings calls broadcast across streaming platforms. But showing up every day for a language he had avoided mastering felt different. Lily tapped his wrist again and signed slowly, exaggerating each movement so he could copy. Ethan followed. This time, his hands were steadier. Olivia watched and gave a subtle nod of approval. Better, she said softly. Lily clapped once in silent celebration. Ethan felt something unfamiliar in his chest. Not pressure, not urgency, but warmth. How many signs do you know? He asked Lily carefully, signing the question with Olivia's guidance. Lily responded in a rapid stream that Ethan could not fully follow. Olivia translated with patience. She says she knows enough to tell jokes, ask for ice cream, and explain why you should stop working on weekends. Ethan blinked. She said that. He asked. Olivia smiled. Almost exactly. Lily signed again, slower, more deliberate. Ethan leaned in. Olivia did not translate immediately. She let him try. He recognized the sign for father. Then learn. Then together. His breath caught. Together. He repeated aloud. Lily nodded. Ethan looked at Olivia. How long did it take you to become fluent? He asked. Years, she answered. But I was not alone. My brother and I practiced at the kitchen table every night after dinner. My father struggled at first too. And did he learn? Ethan asked quietly. Olivia held his gaze. Eventually, she said. The answer carried history without elaboration. Lily rested her chin on the table, watching the two adults as if evaluating a negotiation. Ethan noticed the faint callus on Olivia's index finger from years of shaping precise movements. He noticed the calm steadiness in her voice. He noticed that she had never once looked impressed by his name. He glanced at his phone again as it buzzed a second time, then turned it face down on the table. Lily's eyes widened slightly at that. Olivia noticed too. That is a good sign, she said playfully. Ethan smirked. Which one? He asked. The one where you choose her over the screen? Olivia replied. Lily signed something quickly and pointed at Olivia, then at Ethan. Olivia's cheeks colored faintly. She says you both need practice, she translated. Ethan leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. Then perhaps, he said slowly, forming the words carefully before signing them. We should schedule a lesson. Lily's face lit up. Olivia hesitated for only a fraction of a second. I am usually here most evenings, she said. Ethan met her eyes. So are we, he replied. The statement hung lightly. Not a promise yet, but an intention. Lily reached for both of their hands and placed them closer together on the table, as if arranging pieces on a board. Olivia laughed softly. Ethan felt the sound settle somewhere steady inside him. For the first time in a long time, the most important deal in his life was not waiting in a glass tower downtown. It was unfolding in the quiet space between three pairs of hands learning to move in the same rhythm. The check arrived untouched for several seconds, resting between them like an afterthought neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Ethan glanced at it, then at Olivia, then back at Lily, who was busy teaching him the sign for favorite by tapping her chin and crossing her arms dramatically. He copied her, slightly off rhythm. She corrected him with exaggerated patience, rolling her eyes in a way that felt startlingly normal. Olivia watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction, as if she had witnessed something far more valuable than a generous tip. You are improving, she said softly. Ethan looked at his hands as though they belonged to someone else. I am not used to being corrected by an 8-year-old, he admitted. Lily signed quickly. Olivia laughed under her breath. She says you are not used to being corrected at all, she translated. Ethan paused, then nodded once. That may also be accurate, he said. There was no defensiveness in his voice now, only honesty. Lily leaned back in her chair, satisfied, and began signing about her art project at school. Ethan tried to follow, catching words like paint and blue and tree. He missed the rest. Olivia filled in the gaps quietly, but she did not dominate the conversation. She allowed father and daughter to struggle toward understanding, stepping in only when needed. When Lily described the tree she had painted, her hands sweeping wide to show its branches, Ethan mirrored her movement instinctively. Their hands nearly collided in the air. Both of them smiled. Olivia felt something shift again, subtle but undeniable. Ethan noticed it too. He glanced at her, and for a moment neither of them looked away. There was no grand gesture in that glance, no dramatic music, only a shared awareness that something fragile and promising had entered the room. Lily interrupted the moment by signing toward Olivia with exaggerated curiosity. Olivia blinked. "She wants to know if I have a favorite color," she explained. Ethan gestured for her to answer directly. Olivia turned to Lily and signed slowly. "My favorite color is green." Lily nodded thoughtfully, and then signed something that made Olivia's eyes widen slightly. "What did she say?" Ethan asked. Olivia hesitated, then answered honestly. "She said green is a good color for new beginnings." Ethan's gaze softened. He looked at Lily as if seeing not just his daughter, but the person she was becoming. "She gets that from her mother," he said quietly. The statement carried both pride and absence. Olivia did not pry. She only nodded. Lily signed again, pointing at Ethan's chest. He watched carefully this time. She signed heart and open. He swallowed. "She says your heart is opening." Olivia translated gently. Ethan let out a slow breath. "I hope so," he said. He lifted his hand again and signed "I am learning." The motion was imperfect but deliberate. Lily beamed. Olivia felt warmth rise in her chest that had nothing to do with the soft amber lighting above them. The restaurant manager approached cautiously, clearly aware of who Ethan was but unsure whether to interrupt. Ethan glanced up and offered a polite nod. "Everything is excellent," he said evenly. The manager retreated, relieved. Ethan turned back to Olivia. "Do you ever teach formally?" he asked. "I volunteer on weekends at a community center," she replied. "Mostly children and parents who are just starting out." "And do they improve?" he asked. "When they practice," she said with a small smile. Lily leaned forward again and placed her small hand over Ethan's. Then she reached for Olivia's hand and did the same. Ethan stiffened for a fraction of a second, then relaxed. Olivia did not pull away. Lily arranged their hands side by side on the table, then signed together. Ethan looked from his daughter to Olivia. "She is very direct," he observed. "She is," Olivia agreed. "She does not like waiting for people to catch up." Ethan nodded slowly. He looked at Olivia, not as a waitress now, but as someone who had just altered the direction of his evening, perhaps more than that. "Would you?" he began, then stopped, recalibrating. He was accustomed to issuing invitations wrapped in authority. This felt different. "Would you consider helping us?" he asked finally, signing the words as he spoke them. Olivia studied him for a moment. She saw the effort in his hands, the humility in his tone, the vulnerability he was not used to displaying. "I can help," she said carefully. "But only if you promise to practice even when I am not there." Ethan gave a short, almost boyish smile. "I negotiate contracts for a living," he said. "I think I can handle homework." Lily clapped silently again, delighted. Olivia felt laughter rise in her throat. She covered it lightly with her hand. Ethan watched the gesture and felt something unfamiliar stir, something softer than admiration. "Tomorrow evening," he said, more to Lily than to Olivia. "We start again." Lily nodded decisively. Olivia gathered herself, aware that other tables needed her attention. She stood slowly. "I will be here," she said. Ethan rose as well. An instinctive sign of respect he had not planned. Their eyes met at the same level now. No hierarchy, no imbalance. Just two adults standing across a table where something unexpected had begun. Lily tugged at Ethan's sleeve, reminding him to pay. He reached for the check, then paused. Instead of writing a number quickly and leaving, he looked at Olivia once more. "Thank you." He signed carefully. The gesture was clear, deliberate. Olivia answered in the same language. "You are welcome." And in that quiet exchange of hands and understanding, the night settled into memory, not as a dinner reservation on a busy Manhattan street, but as the first evening Ethan Whitmore chose to stay fully present, guided not by profit or reputation, but by the steady rhythm of a waitress who believed that language was not about power, but about connection. The next evening, Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, something his assistants would have described as unprecedented. He stood outside the Alder room for a brief moment before entering, adjusting his tie not out of vanity, but out of nerves he did not fully understand. Lily walked beside him, her small hand steady in his, her eyes scanning the entrance as if she were arriving for something far more important than dinner. When they stepped inside, the familiar warmth of amber lights and polished wood wrapped around them. Ethan's phone vibrated in his pocket, a reminder of a conference call scheduled in 30 minutes. He silenced it without looking. Lily noticed. She gave him an approving nod and signed good choice. He smiled, slightly embarrassed at how much that approval mattered. Across the room, Olivia was refilling water glasses, her movements fluid, unhurried. She looked up as the door closed behind them. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by something softer. Lily waved enthusiastically, her hands already forming signs. Olivia returned the greeting without hesitation. Ethan watched the exchange and felt that same quiet shift he had experienced the night before. They were seated at the same table by the window. This time, Ethan did not wait. He signed slowly to Lily. I practiced. His fingers were steadier now. Lily's eyebrows lifted in surprise. She leaned forward, testing him with a rapid series of signs. Ethan caught more than half. When he missed one, he paused rather than guessing. Olivia approached with menus, but did not interrupt. She observed as Ethan struggled through the sign for difficult, his brow furrowed in concentration. Lily corrected him, gently adjusting his hand. Olivia set the menus down and signed to Lily. He is trying hard. Lily nodded solemnly, then signed back. He is stubborn. Olivia bit back a laugh. Ethan looked between them. I would appreciate full disclosure, he said lightly. Olivia translated faithfully. Ethan placed a hand over his heart in mock offense. I prefer determined, he replied. Lily rolled her eyes in dramatic exaggeration. Olivia's laughter escaped this time, warm and unguarded. Ethan noticed how the sound lingered, how it seemed to soften the edges of the room. He found himself wanting to hear it again. After they ordered, Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notebook. He placed it on the table. Lily's eyes widened. He opened it to reveal carefully written notes, hand-drawn diagrams of hand shapes, arrows indicating movement. You made that? Olivia asked, surprised. Ethan nodded. 6 pages so far, he admitted. I may have asked my assistant to reschedule a meeting this afternoon. Lily stared at him, then signed slowly, proud. The word landed deeper than any compliment from a board of directors. Ethan swallowed and signed back. Thank you. Olivia watched the exchange, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. You are serious about this, she said quietly. I am, he replied. There was no hesitation in his voice. Lily tapped the notebook and signed to Olivia. Teach him. More? Olivia considered for a moment, then nodded. She sat down briefly, angling her chair closer. We will start with something important. She signed and spoke softly at the same time. Conversation. She demonstrated how to ask, what do you like? Ethan followed, slower but accurate. Lily answered immediately, signing ice cream and art and dog. Ethan blinked. Dog, he repeated. Olivia smiled. She has been asking for one, she explained. Ethan glanced at Lily. We will discuss that. Negotiation later. He signed. Lily laughed silently, then pointed between Ethan and Olivia. She signed something quickly. Olivia's cheeks flushed faintly. What did she say? Ethan asked. Olivia hesitated. She said you look less serious when you are with me, she admitted. Ethan felt the warmth rise in his face. He cleared his throat lightly. She has good observation skills, he said. Lily signed again, slower this time, emphasizing each movement. Ethan leaned in, trying to follow. He recognized like, then friend, then together. He looked at Olivia. Did she just? He began. Olivia nodded, smiling softly. She thinks we make a good team, she translated. The words settled between them, delicate but undeniable. Ethan looked at Lily, then back at Olivia. Your daughter is very perceptive, Olivia said. Ethan smiled faintly. She is, he replied. She sees things I miss. Lily placed both hands flat on the table and signed learn. Then she pointed at Ethan and Olivia, together. Ethan understood without translation this time. He looked at Olivia, not as a waitress, not as a teacher, but as someone standing at the edge of something unexpected. Would you consider, he began slowly, choosing each word with care, meeting us at the community center this weekend? Olivia's eyebrows lifted. Why? She asked gently. Ethan met her gaze. Because I do not want to learn only in restaurants, he said. I want to learn where it matters. Lily nodded vigorously. Olivia studied him for a long moment, searching for any trace of arrogance, any sign that this was another project to be managed. She found none, only sincerity. "All right," she said softly. "Saturday at 10 in the morning." Ethan nodded once, relief and anticipation blending in his chest. Lily clapped again, delighted. Olivia stood as another table called for her attention. Before stepping away, she signed carefully to Ethan. "Keep practicing." He mirrored her sign without hesitation. "I will," and as she walked toward the bar, Ethan realized that for the first time in years, he was looking forward to Saturday morning more than any Monday market report. Because somewhere between misformed handshakes and shared laughter, he had begun building something no contract could guarantee, something steady and human and quietly life-changing. Saturday morning arrived with a pale blue sky stretched over Manhattan and a crisp breeze that carried the scent of roasted coffee from corner cafes opening for the day. Ethan stood outside the community center 10 minutes before 10, hands in the pockets of a navy sweater instead of a tailored suit. His watch still precise, but his posture noticeably less rigid. Lily bounced lightly on her toes beside him, scanning the sidewalk for a familiar figure. "She will be here." Ethan signed carefully, shaping each word with deliberate attention. Lily nodded but checked the street again. When Olivia appeared at the end of the block, wearing jeans and a simple green sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of tied back, Ethan felt something shift in his chest that had nothing to do with business strategy. She looked different outside the restaurant, more relaxed, yet somehow even more confident. Lily waved both hands enthusiastically. Olivia returned the greeting with a wide smile and signed good morning before she even reached them. Ethan answered in sign as well, slower but steady. "Good morning." Olivia noticed the improvement immediately. "You practiced," she said softly. "Every night," he replied. There was no hint of boasting in his voice, only quiet determination. Inside, the community center buzzed with gentle activity. Folding chairs were arranged in a semicircle. Children clustered near a whiteboard covered in colorful diagrams of hand shapes. Parents stood nearby, some hesitant, some eager. Ethan paused at the doorway. He was used to walking into rooms where people recognized him. Here, no one did. And for the first time, he found that refreshing. Olivia led them to the circle and introduced Ethan and Lily simply by their first names. No titles, no references to wealth. Lily immediately joined a group of children signing animatedly about their week. Ethan watched, trying to follow the rapid exchange. Olivia stood beside him. "It can feel overwhelming at first," she said. "It does," he admitted. "In my world, I am rarely the one catching up." Olivia glanced at him. "Maybe that is why this matters," she replied. He looked at her, absorbing the statement. Class began with simple conversation drills. Parents paired up to practice greetings and questions. Ethan found himself across from Olivia. "Ready," she signed. He nodded. They moved through phrases slowly. "How are you?" "I am learning." "What do you enjoy?" Their hands occasionally brushed as she corrected his positioning. The contact was brief, accidental, yet neither of them pulled away too quickly. Lily glanced over at them once and smiled knowingly before turning back to her group. At one point Ethan signed the word for weekend incorrectly, twisting his wrist the wrong direction. Olivia laughed gently and adjusted his hand. "Like this," she said. He followed her movement, eyes focused not only on the gesture but on her expression. There was patience there, and something warmer. During a short break, parents gathered near a coffee table in the corner. Ethan poured 2 cups without thinking and handed one to Olivia. "Thank you," she signed. He answered, "You are welcome." More fluid now. They stood side by side watching Lily animatedly explain something about painting trees in bright blue. "She seems happy here," Ethan said. "She is," Olivia replied. "Children flourish when they feel understood." He nodded slowly. "I should have started sooner," he admitted. Olivia studied him. "You started now," she said. "That is what counts." He met her gaze. "You make it sound simple," she shrugged lightly. "Is not simple. It is consistent." Lily suddenly ran over and tugged at Olivia's sleeve, signing quickly. Olivia blinked in surprise. "What did she say?" Ethan asked. Olivia hesitated, then smiled. "She said she hopes you will both come every Saturday." Ethan looked down at his daughter. He signed carefully. We will. Lily clapped once and darted back to her friends. Ethan turned to Olivia. Would you? He began, then paused. Vulnerability felt unfamiliar but necessary. Would you join us for lunch after this? Olivia raised her eyebrows slightly. As your teacher or as your friend? She asked gently. Ethan considered the question. As someone I would like to know outside of lessons, he said honestly, signing the words as he spoke them. There was a brief silence, filled not with tension but with possibility. Olivia's expression softened. All right, she signed. Lunch sounds nice. The word nice carried more meaning than it should have. When class ended, Lily ran to them and signed excitedly about a new friend who liked the same shade of green. Ethan listened more than he spoke, catching enough to follow without translation. He realized he had not checked his phone in over 2 hours, and he did not miss it. As they stepped back into the sunlight, the city felt less imposing, more open. Lily walked between them, occasionally reaching for both of their hands at once. Ethan glanced at Olivia. Green. He signed carefully. For new beginnings, she smiled. Yes, she replied. And as they headed toward a small cafe down the street, not as a billionaire and a waitress, but as 3 people moving at the same pace, Ethan understood that some investments were measured not in dollars, but in moments. And this one was already yielding something far more valuable than he had expected. The cafe was small and unpretentious, with chalkboard menus and the scent of fresh bread lingering in the air. Sunlight streamed through wide front windows, catching in Lily's hair as she slid into a booth by the wall. Ethan took the seat across from her, while Olivia settled beside Lily, close enough to sign easily. It was the first time Ethan had sat at a table with Olivia, without a uniform between them, without the subtle barrier of service. He felt it immediately. The difference was quiet, but undeniable. Lily signed rapidly about her new friend from class, her hands moving with joyful speed. Ethan followed as best he could, catching words like paint and green and dog again. Olivia leaned in only when necessary, translating less and less. You are improving, she signed to Ethan. He responded without speaking. Thank you for being patient. She smiled at the clarity of the gesture. The waitress approached to take their order, and for the first time in years, Ethan let someone else speak first. Olivia ordered a grilled vegetable sandwich and iced tea. Lily chose macaroni and cheese with apple slices. Ethan ordered coffee and a turkey club, his voice steady, but his attention still on the hands across from him. When the waitress left, Lily looked between the 2 adults and signed something slowly, deliberately. Olivia's eyebrows lifted. What did she say? Ethan asked. Olivia hesitated, then translated honestly. She asked if this is a date. Ethan nearly choked on air. Lily grinned. Olivia laughed. Softly, the sound warm and genuine. What did you tell her? Ethan asked carefully. Olivia met his eyes. I told her we are having lunch, she signed. Ethan nodded slowly. That is accurate, he replied, though his heartbeat had shifted into unfamiliar territory. Lily leaned forward and signed friend with exaggerated emphasis. Then she pointed at both of them. Olivia responded in sign. Yes, friends. Ethan repeated the word, forming it with more confidence than he expected. Their food arrived, and Lily immediately began describing the shape of her macaroni with animated gestures. Ethan listened, really listened, not checking his phone, not scanning the room. Olivia noticed. You are different here, she said quietly. Ethan looked up. Different from where? He asked. From the restaurant, she replied. From the version people recognize. He considered that. Maybe I am still learning that version too, he admitted. Lily tapped the table to regain their attention and signed love. Then she pointed to Ethan. He signed love back without hesitation. She pointed to Olivia. Olivia paused, surprised, then signed love gently in response. The word floated between them, innocent but powerful. Ethan felt it settle somewhere deep and steady. After lunch, they stepped back onto the sidewalk. The city noise felt softer than usual. Lily skipped ahead a few steps, then turned to sign walk together. Ethan and Olivia fell into pace beside each other. You do not have to keep coming to the restaurant, Olivia said carefully. You can practice anywhere. Ethan glanced at her. I know, he replied. But I like coming there. She tilted her head. For the lessons, he shook his head once. For the company. There was no bravado in his tone, only sincerity. Olivia looked ahead at Lily, then back at Ethan. "You are not what I expected," she said. "Neither are you," he answered. Lily ran back to them and grabbed both of their hands without asking. Ethan did not resist. Olivia did not pull away. Their steps adjusted naturally. At the corner, they paused for the light. Lily signed something to Ethan, then to Olivia. This time Ethan understood without help. She was asking if they could all go to the park next weekend. Ethan signed yes immediately. Olivia smiled and added yes as well. Lily's joy radiated outward, effortless and bright. As they crossed the street together, Ethan realized that the schedule waiting in his inbox no longer felt urgent. What felt urgent was the steady presence beside him. The way Olivia matched his pace without trying to lead or follow. The way Lily looked up at both of them as if this arrangement made perfect sense. When they reached the subway entrance where Olivia needed to turn, she paused. "Thank you for today," she signed. Ethan answered, "Thank you for saying yes." Their hands lingered a second longer than necessary before dropping. Lily hugged Olivia without warning. Olivia returned the embrace, then stepped back. Ethan watched the two of them, then met Olivia's eyes. There were words he could have spoken, invitations he could have extended, but instead he signed something simple and honest. "See you soon." Olivia smiled and signed back, "Yes." And as she disappeared down the subway steps, Ethan stood still for a moment, Lily's small hand in his, understanding that somewhere between a restaurant table and a community center classroom, something steady and real had begun to grow, not rushed, not purchased, but earned one careful sign at a time. By the following Wednesday evening, Ethan found himself walking into the older room without checking his reflection in the glass door. He was not here to impress anyone. He was here because Lily had insisted on showing Olivia the new sign she had learned for butterfly. Lily rushed ahead the moment they stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room with familiar excitement. Olivia was at the far end of the dining floor, balancing a tray with effortless precision. When she noticed them, her face lit, in a way that had nothing to do with customer service. Lily waved both hands high in the air, signing "Guess what" before Olivia even reached the table. Ethan followed more calmly, though his steps felt lighter than they had weeks ago. "We practiced every night," he signed to Olivia as she approached. The movement was smoother now, less mechanical. Olivia nodded with genuine approval. "I can tell," she replied in sign. Lily immediately launched into her demonstration, forming the sign for butterfly with dramatic flair, wiggling her thumbs as if the creature might actually lift off from her hands. Olivia laughed, mirroring the gesture. Ethan watched the exchange with quiet pride. This time, he caught every word Lily signed without translation. When Lily finished, she looked at her father expectantly. Ethan signed beautiful. Lily's smile widened. Olivia noticed the ease between them and felt something steady settle inside her. After taking their order, she remained at the table a moment longer than necessary. "You are different," she signed to Ethan. "Better different," she added. Ethan tilted his head slightly. "I feel different," he admitted. Lily tugged at Olivia's sleeve and signed something quickly. Olivia blinked, then glanced at Ethan. "She wants to know if I can come to the park this weekend," she translated. Ethan looked at Lily. "We already planned that," he signed. Lily shook her head emphatically and signed "all day." Ethan hesitated, then laughed softly. "She negotiates like her father," Olivia observed. "She negotiates better," Ethan corrected. Their eyes met again, the shared humor soft and natural. Later, as Lily colored on a paper placemat, Ethan leaned forward slightly. "I meant what I said," he signed carefully. "About wanting to know you outside of lessons." Olivia studied his hands, then his face. "You are getting very good at saying important things in sign," she replied. He smiled faintly. "It makes me think before I speak," she nodded. "That is one of its gifts." Lily suddenly held up her drawing. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a large green tree. Ethan recognized the color immediately. New beginnings. He felt a quiet warmth spread through him. "That is us," Lily signed proudly. Ethan glanced at Olivia. She looked back at him, surprised but not uncomfortable. "It is a very nice tree," Olivia signed. "Strong branches." Lily pointed to the tallest figure, then to Ethan. "Father," then to the second, smaller one. Me. Finally, she pointed to the third and looked at Olivia with a hopeful expression. Olivia swallowed gently. She signed friend. Lily shook her head and signed again, slower, emphasizing the word together. Ethan watched the exchange carefully. He understood more than before. He felt the weight of the moment without panic. He signed softly. We are learning together. Lily considered that and nodded. Olivia's eyes shimmered slightly under the warm restaurant lights. That is true, she signed. As the evening went on, Ethan noticed he no longer felt like a visitor in this space. He felt connected. When he paid the bill, he did not rush to leave. Instead, he stood as Olivia gathered her things at the end of her shift. Lily waited by the door, humming silently to herself. Would you like to walk with us? Ethan asked, signing each word with care. Olivia hesitated only briefly before nodding. Outside, the air carried the scent of early autumn. Lily walked between them again, occasionally swinging their hands together. Ethan glanced at Olivia. I have built many things in my life, he signed. But this feels new. Olivia smiled gently. New can be good, she replied. Lily suddenly stopped and signed something to both of them. Ethan followed. Carefully, he recognized the sign for love again. This time, Lily pointed from herself to Ethan, then from herself to Olivia, and finally from Ethan to Olivia. The message was simple and unmistakable. Ethan felt his breath catch. Olivia's cheeks warmed in the cool night air. Neither of them laughed it off. Instead, Ethan signed slowly, with steady hands. I care about you. Olivia met his gaze and answered in the same quiet language. I care about you too. Lily beamed, satisfied, as if a puzzle piece had just clicked into place. And under the soft glow of the streetlights, with the city moving around them in unaware rhythm, Ethan realized that the most important language he had ever learned was not about business or influence, but about connection, and in learning it, he had found not only his daughter's laughter, but the beginning of something that felt unmistakably like love. The park on Sunday afternoon felt brighter than usual, as if even the trees were aware that something had quietly shifted between them. Ethan arrived carrying a blanket folded neatly over one arm, and a small paper bag of pastries he had picked up from a bakery 2 blocks away. Lily ran ahead toward the wide stretch of grass, her sneakers kicking up tiny bursts of fallen leaves, her hands already moving as she described the clouds above. Olivia stood near a bench beneath a tall maple tree, the same deep shade of green Lily loved to paint. When she saw them, her smile was immediate and unguarded. Ethan felt that same steady warmth settle in his chest. He lifted his hand and signed good afternoon. The movement was fluid now, confident. Olivia returned the greeting. Lily hurried back and grabbed both of their hands at once, signing picnic here with decisive enthusiasm. They spread the blanket beneath the tree, sunlight filtering through the branches in soft patterns. Across their shoulders, children's laughter drifted from a nearby playground. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Ethan sat down beside Olivia rather than across from her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. Lily unpacked the pastries with careful focus, arranging them as if this were an official event. Once they were settled, Lily signed something to Ethan that made him pause. He followed the signs carefully, recognizing father and happy and together. He felt his throat tighten slightly. He signed back, I am happy too. Olivia watched the exchange with quiet understanding. She feels it, Olivia said softly. When you show up, she feels it. Ethan nodded. I did not realize how much I was missing, he admitted. Olivia looked at him. Sometimes we do not know what is missing until someone laughs, she replied. Lily tugged at Olivia's sleeve and signed something slower this time. Olivia blinked and looked at Ethan. She wants to know if I will always come to the park with you, she translated. Ethan did not hesitate. He turned fully toward Lily and signed carefully, if she wants to. Then he looked at Olivia, meeting her eyes. Do you? He asked aloud, signing at the same time. Olivia felt the weight of the question beneath its simplicity. She glanced at Lily, then back at Ethan. Yes, she signed gently. I would like that. Lily clapped her hands in silent celebration and leaned against Olivia's shoulder without thinking. Ethan watched the gesture and felt no jealousy, no hesitation, only gratitude. They spent the next hour teaching Ethan new signs for things around them. Tree, sky, Wind. Future. He stumbled over future at first, forming it too sharply. Olivia guided his hands, adjusting the motion until it flowed. Like you are reaching forward, she explained. He followed her instruction, and their fingers brushed again. This time neither of them pulled away quickly. Lily noticed and smiled knowingly. Later, as Lily chased a drifting leaf across the grass, Ethan and Olivia remained seated on the blanket. The afternoon light softened, casting a golden hue across the park. I have been thinking, Ethan signed slowly. Olivia waited. About how different my life feels now. She tilted her head. Different can be unsettling, she said. Or it can be growth, he nodded. It feels like growth. He hesitated, then continued. I used to measure my days in meetings and numbers. Now I measure them in conversations I can understand. Olivia's expression softened. That is a better metric, she signed. He smiled faintly. You changed that, he said. She shook her head gently. You chose it. Lily returned, breathless and smiling, signing something that made both adults laugh. Ethan caught every word this time without help. He responded immediately, earning an approving nod from Lily. Olivia watched him carefully. You do not need me to translate as much anymore, she observed. Ethan met her gaze. I still need you. He signed quietly. The words carried more than language. They carried intention. Olivia's breath caught for a moment. She answered in the same steady rhythm. I am here. Lily stepped between them again, grabbing both of their hands and lifting them together. Ethan did not resist. Olivia did not hesitate. Under the wide green canopy of the maple tree, with the city humming softly beyond the park's edge, Ethan understood that this was no longer about learning signs. It was about building something steady and shared. Lily signed one final word before they packed up the blanket. Home. Ethan looked at Olivia. She looked back at him. And without speaking aloud, they both knew that home was no longer a place defined by square footage or skyline views, but by the quiet language of hands that had chosen to move in the same direction. On Monday morning, the skyline outside Ethan's office stretched high and indifferent, glass towers reflecting a pale autumn sun. But for the first time in years he did not feel dwarfed by it. He stood near the window of his 42nd floor conference room, hands resting loosely at his sides instead of gripping a tablet, replaying the image of Lily beneath the maple tree, signing home with quiet certainty. His assistant reminded him that investors were waiting, that a major acquisition required his immediate decision. He nodded, but something inside him had shifted. When the meeting began, Ethan found himself studying the faces around the table and wondering how many of them truly felt heard at home. The thought surprised him. Later that afternoon, instead of staying late as usual, he left the office before sunset and picked Lily up from school himself. When she climbed into the back seat, she signed immediately. Park again. Ethan smiled and signed tomorrow, tonight dinner. With Olivia, Lily's eyes widened with unmistakable excitement. That evening at the Alder Room, Olivia noticed the difference before Ethan even spoke. He walked in without the weight of the day pressing on his shoulders. Lily hurried over and signed that she had told 2 classmates about the picnic. Ethan followed with steady fluency, asking questions without glancing for help. Olivia watched him, pride flickering in her expression. You are becoming fluent in more than language, she signed gently. He tilted his head. What do you mean? He asked. You are becoming fluent in presence, she replied. The words lingered. Lily, sensing the shift in tone, signed something playful that made Olivia laugh. Ethan caught it instantly. She was teasing that he looked nervous. He signed back, I am not nervous. Lily raised one eyebrow. Olivia leaned slightly closer and signed, it is allowed. Ethan met her eyes and admitted in sign, maybe a little. Their shoulders brushed as they stood near the table. The contact was simple but charged with quiet awareness. After Lily settled with her coloring book, Ethan turned fully toward Olivia. There is something I would like to ask, he signed slowly, carefully shaping each word. Olivia waited. Would you come to dinner at my home this Friday? He continued. Not as a teacher, not as a friend, as someone important to us. The last phrase carried more weight than the rest. Olivia's breath caught softly. She studied his hands, searching for uncertainty. She found none. Only sincerity. That is a big step, she signed. It is, he agreed. but it feels right. Lily looked up from her drawing and signed what feels right. Ethan smiled. I will tell you later, he answered. Olivia hesitated for a moment that felt longer than it was. Then she signed yes. Lily dropped her crayon in excitement and signed celebration. Ethan laughed quietly, the sound no longer foreign in his own ears. Friday arrived with a gentle, cool breeze and the scent of early fall carried through open windows. Ethan's apartment, usually immaculate and impersonal, felt different as he adjusted small details himself instead of delegating. He placed a vase of fresh flowers on the dining table and turned off the harsh overhead lights, leaving only warm lamps glowing. When Olivia arrived, dressed simply in a soft green blouse, Lily ran to greet her at the door. Ethan stood a step behind. Watching the scene unfold, Olivia signed good evening. Lily responded enthusiastically. Ethan added, welcome home. The word home slipped out before he could overthink it. Olivia's eyes shimmered slightly at the phrasing. During dinner, Ethan signed throughout, rarely needing correction. Lily beamed with every successful exchange. After they finished eating, Lily disappeared briefly into her room and returned with the drawing of the 3 figures beneath the green tree. She handed it to Olivia. For you, Ethan translated aloud and in sign. Olivia studied the picture, her fingers tracing the outline of the tall figure beside the smaller ones. She looked at Ethan. Are you sure? She signed softly. He nodded. Very sure, he replied. Lily then signed something that made both adults freeze for a second. She signed love again, pointing from Ethan to Olivia and back. This time there was no laughter to soften the moment. Ethan took a slow breath and turned toward Olivia. He signed. Deliberately, I love the way you care for my daughter. I love the way you challenge me. I love who I am when I am with you. The words were clear, steady, unhidden. Olivia felt warmth spread through her chest. She answered in the same language. I love the man who chose to learn. I love the father who shows up. I love us together. Lily clapped once in silent triumph. Ethan stepped closer, not rushing, simply standing within the quiet space they had built. Their hands met naturally, fingers intertwining without hesitation. The city lights shimmered beyond the windows, but inside the room the only thing that mattered was the steady rhythm of shared understanding. In that moment Ethan realized that wealth had once given him power, but love had given him purpose. And as Olivia's hand remained in his, and Lily leaned against them both, he understood that the language he had struggled to learn had become the foundation of a life he did not know he had been waiting for. In the weeks that followed, the rhythm of their lives began to change in quiet but undeniable ways. Ethan no longer measured his evenings by the number of emails cleared, but by how many new signs he mastered before Lily went to bed. Olivia's presence in their apartment became natural, not scheduled, not formal, simply expected. On Tuesday nights, she helped Lily with homework at the kitchen table, while Ethan prepared dinner himself, sleeves rolled up, tie nowhere in sight. He moved more slowly now, intentionally, asking Lily about her day and sign without hesitation. Sometimes he missed a detail, and Lily would correct him with dramatic exaggeration, but he would laugh and try again. Olivia watched these moments with a softness that had nothing to do with sentimentality and everything to do with respect. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the wide windows overlooking the city, Ethan closed his laptop earlier than usual and joined them at the table. Lily was explaining a science project about trees and roots, her hands describing how they spread beneath the ground unseen but essential. Ethan followed every word. Olivia noticed. You did not look at me once, she signed playfully. Ethan smiled. Because I understood her, he replied. Lily beamed with pride. After Lily went to her room to brush her teeth, Ethan and Olivia remained at the table. The apartment felt quieter, the rain steady outside. I have been thinking about something. Ethan signed slowly. Olivia waited, her hands resting lightly in her lap. There are families who do not have access to lessons like this, he continued. Parents who want to learn but cannot afford private tutors or flexible schedules. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. That is true, she replied. I see it every weekend at the center. Ethan leaned forward slightly. What if we could change that? He signed. She studied his expression carefully. There was no trace of business strategy in his eyes, only intention. How? She asked gently. By funding more community classes, he answered. By creating resources that are free, online, accessible. I have the means. You have the experience. Olivia felt her breath catch. That would be significant, she sighed. It would help many families. Ethan nodded. Then let us do it. The simplicity of his statement made her smile. He was still decisive, still confident, but now his certainty carried compassion. Lily returned quietly and climbed onto a stool beside them. She signed something that made Olivia laugh softly. She says you are talking about big plans again. Olivia translated. Ethan signed back, yes, but good plans. Lily narrowed her eyes playfully and signed promise. Ethan raised his hand and signed promise with deliberate clarity. Lily accepted the gesture and leaned against his shoulder. Olivia watched father and daughter framed against the soft glow of the city lights. She felt something steady anchor inside her. Later, as Lily fell asleep, Ethan walked Olivia to the door. The hallway outside was calm, the building quiet. I meant what I said, he signed. About building something together. Olivia looked up at him. I know, she replied. And I want that too. He hesitated for only a moment before lifting his hand again. I love you. The sign was smooth, confident, no longer uncertain. Olivia answered without pause. I love you. There was no audience, no applause, only the quiet certainty of two people choosing the same direction. Before she stepped into the elevator, Lily's voice echoed faintly from down the hallway as she called out for water. Ethan smiled and turned back toward the apartment. Olivia watched him for a second longer before the doors closed. Over the next month, plans began to take shape. Ethan used his network not to secure profit, but to secure partnerships. Olivia designed lesson outlines and video guides that were clear, warm, approachable. Lily tested every lesson with serious concentration, occasionally correcting both adults with authoritative flair. The first community event funded by their new initiative filled the center with families who had once felt isolated. Ethan stood beside Olivia as parents practiced their first signs, awkward and hopeful. Lily moved among the children like a small ambassador, demonstrating butterfly and tree and future, when a father in the back of the room signed thank you with trembling hands. Ethan felt the full weight of what had changed. He was no longer simply a man who could influence markets. He was a man who had learned to influence his own heart. As the evening ended and families drifted home, Olivia slipped her hand into his. You see, she signed softly. Roots grow beneath the surface. Ethan looked at Lily laughing with her new friends and nodded. And when they are strong, he replied. The tree stands tall, under the warm lights of the community center, surrounded by hands moving in shared language. Ethan understood that love had expanded beyond a single apartment, beyond a single family. It had become something living and generous. And as Olivia leaned gently against him, and Lily ran back to wrap both of them in an enthusiastic embrace, he realized that the quiet decision to learn had not only changed his relationship with his daughter, it had changed the direction of his life forever. The first public launch of their foundation filled the auditorium with a quiet kind of anticipation that felt different from any corporate announcement Ethan had ever hosted. There were no flashing cameras, no stock tickers scrolling across screens, no polished speeches prepared by public relations teams. Instead, there were folding chairs arranged in careful rows, a modest stage with a simple banner that read in clear letters, "Learn together," and families seated shoulder to shoulder, hands already moving in tentative but hopeful signs. Ethan stood backstage beside Olivia and Lily, adjusting the cuffs of his blazer out of habit, though tonight the gesture felt unnecessary. He was not here as a billionaire. He was here as a father. Lily squeezed his hand and signed ready. He answered without hesitation, ready. Olivia watched them both, pride evident in the steadiness of her gaze. You remember your part. She signed softly to Lily. Lily nodded and signed I will not forget. Ethan smiled at the confidence in her small hands. When their names were introduced, they walked onto the stage together, not in a straight line, but naturally, Lily between them as she always preferred. The applause was warm but not overwhelming. Ethan stepped to the microphone first. He spoke briefly, but he signed as he spoke, every word deliberate, every phrase clear. We began with one conversation, he said, hands shaping the message for those who needed it. One decision to learn instead of assume. Tonight, this is not about funding. It is about understanding. He glanced toward Olivia, then toward Lily. I was taught that success is measured in numbers. I have learned it is measured in connection. As he stepped back, Lily moved forward. The room quieted instantly. She signed with careful confidence, describing how it felt when her father began to understand her without waiting for translation. Her hands trembled only once, and when they did, Ethan placed his hand lightly against her back, grounding her without interrupting. She signed the word home again, slower this time, larger, as if expanding it to fill the room. Several parents wiped away tears quietly. Olivia stepped forward last. She did not speak about sacrifice or struggle. She spoke about consistency. She signed that language is not a tool of convenience, but a promise. She signed that when someone chooses to learn your language, they choose you. Ethan felt the weight of that truth settle deeper than any business lesson he had ever absorbed. After the speeches, families gathered in small circles to practice. Ethan did not retreat to the edge of the stage. He knelt beside a young father struggling to form the sign for love correctly. He adjusted the man's hand gently, just as Olivia had once adjusted his. Lily moved among the children, correcting them with gentle authority. Olivia watched the scene unfold and felt a quiet gratitude. Later, when the auditorium began to empty and the banner was being folded carefully for storage, Ethan found Olivia near the back of the room, stacking pamphlets. He touched her shoulder lightly. She turned and signed it was beautiful. He answered it was real. Lily ran up to them and signed celebration tonight. Ethan laughed softly. What kind of celebration? He asked in sign. Lily answered ice cream. Olivia raised one eyebrow playfully. Ethan nodded solemnly. Ice cream it is, he signed. They stepped out into the cool evening air together. The city felt different now, less imposing, more intimate. As they walked toward a small ice cream shop a few blocks away, Ethan felt an unfamiliar sense of calm. Not the calm of control, but the calm of belonging. Inside the shop, Lily chose mint chocolate chip and insisted on green sprinkles. Olivia selected vanilla with fresh strawberries. Ethan ordered dark chocolate. They sat at a small round table near the window. Lily signed something between bites that made Olivia laugh and Ethan shake his head. He caught every word. No hesitation. No translation. When Lily excused herself to throw away her napkin, Ethan reached across the table and took Olivia's hand. You changed everything, he signed. She shook her head gently. You chose to change, she replied. He leaned closer, lowering his voice though his hands continued to move. I cannot imagine my life without you now. She met his gaze steadily. Then do not, she signed. There was no grand display, no audience, just the steady pulse of two people who had built something patient and strong. Lily returned and signed home time. Ethan nodded. As they stepped back into the night, Lily slipped her hand into one of his and one of Olivia's. The three of them moved in the same rhythm, under the glow of street lights and the quiet hum of the city. Ethan realized that what began as a lesson had become a legacy, not of wealth, not of reputation, but of love that chose to listen. And as Lily signed future with bright certainty, and Olivia answered with the same steady hands, Ethan understood that the future they were building was no longer something he needed to control. It was something they were creating together, one clear and confident sign at a time. Spring arrived quietly in the city. Not with a dramatic shift, but with subtle changes that only those paying attention would notice. The air felt lighter, the trees along the avenue outside Ethan's apartment budding with new leaves, the color green returning in soft layers. Lily pressed her hand against the window one morning and signed look. Ethan joined her, following her gesture to the line of trees below. He signed growing. She nodded, satisfied. Olivia stood a few steps behind them, watching the reflection of the two figures she loved most framed against the glass. It had been several months since the first community event, and what began as a simple idea had become a steady movement. Families now filled weekend classes. Online lessons streamed into living rooms across the country, and messages arrived daily from parents who had signed their first complete sentences with their children. Ethan still led meetings in his office tower, but now a framed drawing of three figures beneath a green tree sat on his desk. Whenever he felt the old pressure return, he looked at it, and remembered why he had chosen differently. That Saturday afternoon, they returned to the same park beneath the tall maple tree where Lily had once declared home. The branches were fuller now, casting wide patches of shade over the grass. Lily spread out a blanket with practiced efficiency and signed picnic tradition. Ethan laughed softly and signed always. Olivia sat beside him, their shoulders touching naturally. There was no longer any hesitation in the contact, no unspoken questions. Their connection had grown steady, rooted. Lily began teaching them a new sign she had learned at school for change. Her hands moved confidently. Ethan followed without stumbling. Olivia watched the ease in his movements and felt quiet pride. "You barely think about it now," she signed. Ethan smiled. "It feels like breathing," he replied. Lily glanced between them and signed good. Then she pointed at the tree and signed strong. Ethan understood immediately. He signed roots. Olivia added together. The three words formed a quiet truth between them. As they shared sandwiches and fruit beneath the open sky, Ethan looked at Olivia with the same steady gaze he had carried into boardrooms for years, but now it held warmth instead of calculation. "I have something for you," he signed. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Lily's eyes widened dramatically. Olivia's breath caught. Ethan opened the box slowly, revealing a simple ring with a delicate green stone at its center. "Green," he signed carefully. "For beginnings, for growth, for us." The park noise faded into the background. Olivia looked at the ring, then at Ethan. He did not kneel in grand display. He simply held her gaze and signed, "Will you build this life with me?" Lily clasped her hands together, barely containing her excitement. Olivia felt tears rise, not from surprise, but from certainty. She signed yes. Her hands were steady. Ethan slid the ring gently onto her finger. Lily erupted into silent applause, then threw her arms around both of them at once. They laughed together, three figures beneath a tree that had quietly witnessed their first picnic and now this promise. Later, as the sun began to lower, casting warm gold across the park, Ethan leaned back against the trunk and watched Lily chase shadows across the grass. Olivia rested beside him. "I used to believe that power meant control," he signed. "Now I understand it means commitment." Olivia nodded. "And love means listening," she replied. He took her hand, fingers intertwining naturally. There were no cameras, no headlines, no public declarations, only the steady hum of the city and the soft rustle of leaves above them. Lily returned and signed family. Ethan answered without pause, family. Olivia added forever. The word felt expansive but not overwhelming. As they packed up the blanket and began walking home together, Lily once again placed herself between them, holding both of their hands. The streetlights flickered on as evening settled. Ethan glanced down at their joined hands and felt the quiet truth of it. He had once built empires from glass and steel. Now he had built something far more enduring from patience and presence. And as Olivia looked up at him and signed "I love you," and Lily echoed the same sign with playful exaggeration, Ethan understood that the greatest investment he had ever made was not in markets or companies, but in a language that taught him how to stay. Under the soft glow of the city lights, their steps fell into the same rhythm, three shadows moving forward as one, rooted, growing, and finally, home. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that real strength begins with listening. Like this video to support more meaningful stories about family, growth, and second chances. Subscribe to Love After Everything channel for more journeys where quiet courage changes everything, one powerful moment at a time.